What's a creepy fact you wish you never heard? Story 1. That children are usually abducted and taken down by someone they know or someone in their own family. Story 2. Diprosopis, the rare genetic condition of developing more than one face. It's the stuff of nightmares. Story 3. People rarely are eliminated instantly. Read this on a thread featuring a paramedic talking about car accidents. Story 4. That Microsoft filed a patent to use your data to create a chatbot of you after you die. Anybody will be able to find out almost everything about you. Story 5. The guy who got stuck in a cave and died upside down, and generally everything to do with dying on empty Everest. Answer. The Rainbow Valley on Mount Everest isn't named for the beautiful natural phenomena up there. It's named for the rainbow of snowsuits from decades of corpses littering the ground. There's one called Green Boots. That's an Indian guy from the 80s and considered a marking spot. Oh, and some of the bodies are from people who went up there to remove the other bodies. Sweet dreams. Story 6. FBI profilers suspect that there are over 2,000 serial killers at large right now. Many will never be caught. Answer. It's suspected that there is a group of truck drivers working together and are performing these takedowns all over the country. It's easy for them to hide as they're on the move a lot, and if they work together, they can cover each other's tracks. Now, I'm not sure how a group of truck drivers decided to start eliminate with each other, and it's more believable they're working independently instead of cooperating with each other, but the idea is still scary. Story 7. There were prisoners in Auschwitz given the specific full-time job of doing nothing but burning photo albums and children's toys because the passing camp collected so many and considered them worthless. Answer. Read a book by an Aussie vet whose job was to stoke the fires. One day, his Polish partner was too weak and slow for the Nazis' liking. The Nazis grabbed the Pole. They all knew what the Nazis were going to do. The Pole looked at the Aussie and said, "Aussie?" his nickname for him, clearly hoping that the Aussie would intervene. The Aussie looked down and kept stoking the fire, even as the Nazis threw the Pole in. It haunted him for the rest of his life. I fudge dislike Nazi apologists. They were just doing their jobs so that their families weren't eliminated. Bullshit. You can't tell. They burned that man alive and made his friend too scared to intervene because they were anything but sadists. The myth of the clean Wehrmacht has much to answer for. Story 8. Fatal familial insomnia is a very rare disorder in which you develop insomnia, and it quickly becomes worse and worse until you literally cannot sleep, and then you die. Later in the illness, you enter a permanent state of hypnagogia, which is the state between sleep and wakefulness. It has a 100 passing rate. The life expectancy after it develops is 7 months to 6 years. It's passed down genetically and typically is developed when the person is middle-aged, so you can watch your parents die from it and then start to develop symptoms. Story 9. In places where the passing sentence is legal, the pen used would be broken at the nib. This is common for a judge to do this, as they refuse to use the same pen that condemned a person in other cases. Story 10. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, human version of mad cow where your brain looks like a sponge, can happen spontaneously. And it's darn near impossible to clean the specialized surgical implements used in certain brain surgeries and typically rented, to the point where you can't transfer the prions into the next patient's brain, potentially infecting them with it. X200B. It happened in New Hampshire back in 2013. 15 people were exposed from one patient who was confirmed to have the spontaneous form after he died. X200B. Story 11. The terrifying effects of rabies. I stay away from any and every animal that can carry rabies, especially bats. Answer: I got bit by a coyote in Mexico, basically their version of a raccoon. Happened 4 hours before my flight home. Went straight from the airport to the doctor without making an appointment, said what happened, and got whisked in. My doctor freaked. He literally grabbed his hair and started pulling on it. He called the CDC to confirm his fears. There was an arrangement made to fly vaccine to me. I got them in 12 hours. That is a whole other ordeal. I still have the image of my doctor saying in horror, "You do not want to die from rabies." No shoot. I held my breath for 2 weeks, got the second round of shots, and mercifully did not die of rabies. Story 12. It can take up to 3 minutes or longer to die a broken neck because the connection to the rest of the body is severed, meaning you actually die from a heart attack, stroke, suffocation, basically everything related to depriving essentials like blood and oxygen to the brain. And you're paralyzed from the neck down, meaning all you can do is lay there in deathly pain knowing you're going to die. You can also smile after getting your head cut off because it takes around 3 seconds for the brain to shut down after decapitation. There's a story about that, but I forgot who it was about. Story 13. Dead whales eventually explode due to built-up gases inside them, and the force is enough to seriously injure a person standing too close. So if you ever see a dead whale on the beach, get away. Story 14. That whales will eventually lose the ability to surface, so at one point they just drown because they can't get more air. Story 15. Rats will crawl all over you while you're asleep. Apparently, they aren't scared of humans while we're asleep. Heard a rat squeak at night at my previous residence, and had the brilliant idea of Googling if I would be safe in my bed. Kept me awake for several nights until we finally managed to trap it. Still creeps me out. Answer: when I was really little, like preschool age, rats had chewed through to my closet and then set up shop in my mattress and had babies in it. It was weeks or months of me telling my mom and dad that I heard stuff moving in my closet and under my bed for them to finally stop calling me a crybaby that needs to learn to sleep in her own room and check it out and find all the pups living in there. I was weirdly relieved to find out it was rats because I thought my toys were coming to life at night and plotting against me. I'd be just so scared every night. Now I wonder how many just crawled all over me every night for however long that lasted. Story 16. Delaware's age of consent used to be 7 years old. Also, the youngest mother on record is, well, probably was, a 5-year-old Peruvian girl due to precocious puberty and one seriously sick motherfucker. Story 17. Almost everyone, 85% of the population by age 60, will eventually get eyelash mites. They are terrifying to look at under a microscope, but, supposedly, harmless. Story 18. If you die in your own house, your pets will wait a couple days. After that, they will eat your dead body. Story 19. I wish I'd never found about the Columbine killers at all. They led me down a true crime rabbit hole that I regret ever being a part of. Because I learned about them, I ended up sexualizing violence, and it was disgusting. It makes me sick. P.S. Getting better now, learning to unlearn that violence intimacy, but it's hard some days. Really wish I'd never known these kinds of people existed. Story 20. It is estimated that between 2.3% and 5% of all U.S. prisoners are innocent, with the number of incarcerated Americans being approximately 2.4 million. By that estimate, as many as 120,000 people may be incarcerated as a result of wrongful conviction. 200B, Also, a lot of people back then used to take photos with dead people as like a last goodbye or memory. But thanks to cameras not being the best, it would take about an hour to capture the photo, meaning you would have to pose with a dead, loved one for an hour. Answer: I'm no statistician, but I would argue the number is even higher than that. I got a misdemeanor in my youth for something I was 100% innocent for. My lawyer told me to take a plea deal. After arguing with him on why the fudge I would take a plea when I am innocent, he says, if the charge goes to trial and a jury, who do not want to do their jury duty, decide to expedite their time and deem me guilty, my punishment will be tenfold. I took the plea and misdemeanor on my record out of fear, uncertainty, blind faith in my lawyer, and the circus show that is the U.S. justice system. For fudge's sake, if anyone is summoned for jury duty, please do participate diligently. I get that you're not getting paid and it's boring and easy to make assumptions about the defendant. But your vote can and will ruin someone's life if you're wrong, and it happens all the time. Story 21. That people are still aware after they are decapitated, or at least can still react to stimuli like having their name called out. Sorry, people. I looked around and realized this isn't as true as I thought it was. The studies done on this sort of thing were done so long ago that a lot of misinformation and unreliable word-of-mouth reports may have tampered with the original findings of these studies. What was seen as heads seemingly reacting to stimuli after being decapitated were most likely simply the muscles contracting due to, the whole passing thing. Sorry if I don't explain. This very well, my brain is not working right now, but I felt like I should correct this piece of misinformation. There's a few people beneath this that explain it better than I can. Story 22. Parrots have enough beak power to crack a coconut, and our skulls are as thick as a coconut. So in theory, a parrot could crack your skull. Story 23. Was once shown a picture of a toddler's skull with all the baby adult teeth. Picture haunts me to this day. Story 24. New research suggests that we know we are dead when we die because our brains keep working to make us aware of what's happening around us. Story 25. The human anus can extend up to 7 inches. Raccoons can fit into holes as small as 4 inches. You do the math. Story 26. At this moment, you're as young as you'll ever be again and closer to passing than you've ever been before. Have a good night. Story 27. CP wasn't illegal in a lot of countries until around the 1970s. If your parent or grandparent got an old vintage mag, there's a high chance there's someone in there that shouldn't be. Story 28. That ducks are such prolific gang rapists that female ducks have adapted multiple female body part and can choose which duck gets them pregnant. Story 29. The fact that every smell you smell is because of weightless particles from the source going into your nasal cavity creeps me out. Spoiled meat and poo. Good old poo. Story 30. On Amazon and other sites like Etsy, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of products that are labeled as negative ion producing. Most are just bullshit, but a slim few actually produce ions. Without a power source. If put near a Geiger counter, some are highly or moderately radioactive as they contain thorium oxides. One site that I found sells kids' underwear with the negative ion producing stuff. Fudge, disgusting what people will do for a quick buck, and what people will just believe at it. Added link to a Thought Emporium video where he discusses in detail how he came to this conclusion. Story 31. In the year 2000, one of Russia's largest submarines sank in 800 meters of water. Yet still, 21 people survived in the submarine for days in an air bubble. A Russian submarine had tried and tried to lock to the hatch to get them out of there, but every time failed. Eventually, a chunk of phosphorus, or one of those elements which explode on contact with water, which was being held up to prevent an explosion, was knocked over by a crew member and exploded. The remaining 21 people either burned to passing or suffocated. Story 32. That horse legs are actually highly specialized fingers. They're basically walking on disgustingly elongated middle fingers, and all other carpal bones have become more or less vestigial. Story 33. Today my dad told me that rattlesnakes are abundantly just swimming around in one of the 2 local lakes we have in my town, and they try to get in boats all the time, so that's fun. Story 34. As a woman, you will never know how many men imagine coming on your face while you're talking to them. Same is true for men talking to men. Answer. Okay, but as a woman who is into that, I'm not creeped out. Like, I get where you're coming from, that it could be creepy depending on who it is picturing it. But I mean, I've had some pretty inappropriate fantasies in my head about men I'm talking to. I would bet not all of them would be game. So in closing, we're all just a bunch of sickos pretending not to be sickos. Story 35. The amount of people that go missing in national parks across the U.S. that no one really seems to pay attention to. Story 36. Some doctors give women a stitch in their vaginal opening after they give birth, sometimes without consent, so the husband enjoys intimacy more. It is extremely painful for the woman, and medical students are often instructed to give unconscious women pelvic exams. The women aren't notified before it happens. Story 37. Many things. There's the smaller stuff like the process of dying by hypothermia and the side effects of various unpleasant diseases and substances, more disturbing stories like Albert Fish and Hisashi Uchi, and the existential dread that there are multiple time bombs, like the potential for a Carrington Event 2 and maybe Dead Hand Perimeter ticking all around us, but many are oblivious to them, and for good reason. Story 38. So many, and don't know if this counts, but I found it creepy just how much those adorable sea otters are horrible monsters. From as simple as taking other otter pups as ransom for food to the fact they'll joyfully hold down baby seals and quite literally violation them to passing. Twisted little bastards. Story 39. Kangaroos have the ability to lure humans into a body of water to try and drown them. When I heard that, I Googled it, and it was true. Ew. Story 40. Toddlers, adult teeth are right under their eyes, and that the most haunted place in a house is 3 bathroom. Idiot. This is more sad than creepy, but since dogs don't have a sense of right or wrong or some shoot like that, when you randomly trip over your dog in the middle of the night on accident, your dog thinks you woke up just to kick it. Answer. My dogs definitely know right from wrong. Like if one pooped inside and comes around me after, they act shifty. And when I find the poop, they lower their ears and tuck their tail. I don't spank or yell at them. Just say no, and that they know better. It rarely happens, and there are other things they know they aren't supposed to do. But yeah, I can see them not understanding getting kicked out of nowhere and thinking they are in trouble for some reason though, and that makes me sad. I always give extra snugs and kisses when I bump into one of them by accident. And many apologies, LOL. Story 41. Most of the stuff Unit 731 did when Japan occupied parts of China before during WW2. Seriously, don't look up the Wikipedia article, it's messed up. Whoever was running that unit makes Joseph Mengele look like Patch Adams. Story 42. Tor browser, Deep Dark Web, was developed by American government just to communicate with their spies. Story 43. The fact that food and medicine we use could have been tempered by someone, similar to Chicago Tylenol takedown case. Or several years ago in my country, people would find medicine pills in middle of their snack cakes or cookies from different brands without any sign of open packaging. Fortunately, I didn't hear anyone getting hurt from it. Story 44. I think we all knew this to an extent, but hearing for a fact that we are being listened to and tracked by GPS and everything else our smart devices and computers do is quite creepy. Story 45. Tardigrades survived all mass extinctions and are fudge disgusting. I dislike basically every bug, bacteria, etc. If there's a phobia for that, I have it. Can't stand any of that shoot. Story 46. There are serial killers, rapists, substances lords, and other criminals walking along you in the streets. You just don't know them until it gets wired to the TV and you're like, that face seems familiar. Story 47. I'm in America, and there's this place called Yellowstone, basically. It's a huge jerk volcano, and if it were to explode, would pretty much destroy most of the USA and eliminate 5 billion people around the world. When I heard that, I was scared shitless for about a year. Story 48. On how if you cut your veins, you can die within like 4 minutes, and bleeding eternally. Also bleeding inside your body like organs, veins, etc. Story 49. R504 Colima Highway, also known as the Road of Bones. During the 1930s or 50s in the Soviet Union, hundreds of thousands of Gulag laborers died constructing it. With limited resources, surviving inmates used the bones of those who perished to build the road, which stretches for over 2,000 kilometers. Today it is treated as a memorial. Story 50. I know far too many of these. If I'd never heard of them, I'd never be able to spread the word, though. Story 51. Cats can be born with a face containing only one eye and a mouth. It's called cyclopia. I don't care knowing the fact, but I wish I've never seen the images. Story 52. Inhaling gases lighter than oxygen, such as helium, can lead to your lungs not being able to pull in any oxygen because it's blocked by said gas. Story 53. The male anglerfish is tiny compared to the female, and to reproduce it essentially latches permanently onto the female and becomes sort of an auxiliary organ by existing on her body. Story 54. Deaf people with schizophrenia report seeing disembodied hands signing things to them instead of hearing voices. Story 55. Apparently, if you live in a mid-class or above area, expects house burglars, so get cameras and alarms. If you live in a working-class area, expect to get mugged. If you're walking, carry a cheap Android phone that you don't mind being stolen. Tell people you know where you are going and maybe invest in a body bullet camera. Also, if you have valuables, keep them away from bedrooms and in a safe. Also, if you can get pet insurance, as people can substances or steal them. Make absolute sure your house includes contents insurance. Story 56. Airline pilots do all their training on simulators, so the first time they actually fly a certain type of plane in the real world, it has passengers on it. They have well-trained Czech airmen in there with them for the first few flights, but still. 1/9. Story 57. I found it on Wikipedia. If you are eating or liking meat, don't read this. X200B, 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 X200B. So, human meat resembles veal. Wikipedia says this data is from some university. Story 58. Rhubarb leaves. Deadly as all hell if ingested, you drop dead in under 15 minutes. It's traceless as well, and its taste can easily blend into salads. It grows easily and everywhere, and now I'm paranoid. Telling my other half this fun fact was not that bright of me. P.S. We have rhubarb growing in our backyard. I count the leaves every morning, every goddamn morning. Vigilance, gentlemen, vigilance. Story 59. A parasite called Toxoplasma gondii exists in cat excrement, presumed to be from the brains of rats. By some estimates, 23 of human populations in developed countries are infected by the parasite, which, again theoretically aphaik, has minor personality-altering effects. Story 60. There's a disorder called apotemnophilia, and it's basically the overwhelming desire to amputate or damage healthy parts of your body. It's whack. Story 61. You can eliminate yourself without wanting to, due to a substances that's from a flower. One smell and you black out, and then you're found dead, one way or another's. Story 62. When babies are aborted, they sometimes, depending on the age, try to escape the device, but it is feeble. Story 63. People liking TikTok. Also, that there are a lot of serial killers loose that may never be caught as we speak, like thousands. Story 64. The look of Minions was actually designed after a Nazi experiment on children, where they would be forced to wear these heavy helmets that were so heavy it stunted their growth and it made the children lose their ability to speak. I saw this on TikTok, so if anyone knows if this is real or not, please tell me. Story 65. Sorry this isn't related. If there's anyone out there, I need help with Modern Warfare. It isn't working. I got my PS4 taken away around November because of my grades, and got the PSN renewed in January as a B-Day gift from my uncle. I loaded Modern Warfare on my stepdad's PS4, but I could only access Warzone. I downloaded the multiplayer packs and everything, but it needed the credit debit card of my uncle as a two-factor authentication. But he didn't want to put his card on that PS4, only mine, making Modern Warfare restricted. So, flash forward a couple of months, and I get my PlayStation back and put in Modern Warfare, but I run into the same problem. I downloaded the multiplayer packs, except this time it didn't ask for the card, and all it says, it installation suspended. If anyone has solved this problem, can you please share the solution? Answer. I got my PS4 taken away around November because of my grades. Something tells me the poor grades weren't from lack of effort. Highlight the game's icon on the dashboard, press down on the D-pad, and select PlayStation Store. It should show a list of DLC. Press View All, and then select and download every DLC pack that has free as its price tag. After you made sure all essential DLC is downloaded, restart the game. You can also use this site for help in the future. Story 66. Vaginal and anal prolapses can happen in humans. I only thought they happened in animals. I live on a farm and it happens somewhat often, but no, humans can get them just as bad. Story 67. You can still see everything that's going on and be able to think if you're decapitated until your brain dies. Story 68. Not a fact, but I once saw a picture of the summit of Mount Everest. It was just this unending line of people, dozens, maybe hundreds. For some reason, that really creeped me out. Story 69. If you die alone in your house, your pet will eat you. Eyes and lips first, next is skin, third is organs, and fourth is hair. Story 70. That if you have any sort of sound speaker or camera that has a speaker in your house, that someone can possibly hack into it using the Wi-Fi and either listen or talk through the speaker. Story 71. Dr. Seuss was racist and abused his wife so much that she committed tragic end, and after she died, he got another person to replace her. Story 72. Whales don't always die by hunters when whales get too weak with age. They give up trying to resurface and sink to the bottom of the ocean, drowning themselves. Story 73. I hope you don't mind me giving more than one fact. Cats will eat you after you die, starting with the eyes. And in 16th century plastic surgeon Gaspare Tagliacozzi built his aristocratic patients' new noses out of the skins of the patient's slaves. Not exactly something I wish I'd never heard, but still creepy. Story 74. If you see a tornado and it's not moving left or right, it's coming straight at you, in which case all you can do is go into a ditch and know your whole house will be destroyed. There is nothing you can do. Story 75. The human ear is capable of being ripped off as easily as ripping 3-layered paper. That just scares me, because if anyone is sick enough, they could sneak up behind me and just rip my left ear off. Story 76. You can hear for a few moments after you're